Joining us now from New York for more on what we can expect from tonight's show is David Tisch himself. David, you practically stole the show that first episode. What was it like to watch it all back on television?
Yeah. Totally weird. You're looking at yourself about 8 months ago. So this show was filmed basically January, February, March, and April, and so it's a kickback to what you were thinking, what you sort of thought back then, because those thoughts have progressed, the companies have progressed, but it was a lot of fun.
Now, I don't want to give the ending of the show away in terms of whether or not you failed, but one of my favorite scenes from the last episode is where you're grilling a company called Urban Apartment. You call them arrogant. Let's take a listen to that clip.
What are you trying to do?
Sign up our users, get them to review, get involved, build this community. Flyer the out of them. And
they're not going to let. I think you guys are lost. I do.
Tough love, David. Why is tough love? Why do you think that kind of methodology is important in terms of nurturing these small companies?
So in our program, we focus on mentorship, and that mentorship is driven around really pushing you as an entrepreneur to explore your idea, to explore your company, your vision. And in that first chunk of the program, to make sure what you're building is what you want to be building, what users want to use. And I think that really pushing the entrepreneurs to make sure they're building what users want and what they believe in that first chunk, that's what you saw there with Urban Apartment.
Now, you had a number of early challenges, which I'm sure is very typical of young startups. You had one co-founder of the company to vie for actually drop out, simply disappear. What happened there?
You know, I think getting into TechStars made them have some really tough conversations, and the other co-founder decided that entrepreneurship wasn't for her, and she stayed at, I think, her banking job and just made that decision. And when TechStars forces you and your co-founder to break up, it probably tells a good sign about the co-founder who can't take that big jump.
Coming up tonight, the second episode, what are we going to see? Well, what is this phase?
So tonight, I think you're going to see the word pivot gets thrown around a lot in technology. Tonight, you're going to see a company really dive deep into themselves and what they're building and make sure that they either do need to pivot or not pivot. And I think you see Home Field go through that process on TV, which should be pretty interesting.
We've talked about this word pivot, David, a bit here. It's kind of become a cool term in Silicon Valley, but doesn't it actually mean that your original idea failed?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it means that it's probably not worth going down the path you thought it was worth going down, and you're going to find a new one. And so you'll see Home Field take a big step back and say, are we building what we believe in? Are we building what we want to build? And it's tough for them. They have paying customers, they have real traction, and they have a passion around sports. And so to take a step back and say, is this really what we want to be doing? It's a hard moment in a startup's life.
Now, another company, OnSwipe, on the show has a taste of some early success, but you're frustrated with how they handled it. Tell us about that.
So OnSwipe raised, as you'll see tonight, a little bit of money at the beginning of the program, and that put them in a position where they can make some hires. And at one of our group meetings, they basically said out loud, hire your developers, hire your designers, we're hiring everybody. And you saw the other companies raise their eyebrows. And my message to Jason was basically reel it in a little bit. Don't show all your cards to everybody. If you're going to do that, do it tactfully rather than really just stepping on everybody's toes. And at that point in the program, the entrepreneurs hadn't really gotten to know each other, so it probably rubbed some people the wrong way.
How open are these entrepreneurs to feedback? I mean, you know, do they just listen to everything you say? Do they ever go rogue and kind of go off on their own and try to make a name for themselves?
Oh, I mean, look, an entrepreneur by nature is a rebel. They're trying to create something. They're trying to disrupt an industry. So giving feedback to an entrepreneur is incredibly challenging. Expecting them to listen, probably 5% of the time. But if you give them enough feedback, that 5% will sink in and something might come of it.
Now, we were also talking earlier today about how these companies come up with their names. I know obvious domain names can be quite expensive, but how do they come up with the names like To Vie For and Urban Apartment? What's your advice to startups about naming their companies?
You know, we first take a look, is it a B2B company? Is this name going to be consumer facing? Do people need to know and remember the name? If not, you can pretty much go with anything. And so you'll see Ouija explore their name where it's not a consumer facing technology. On the flip side, a company like Tavai for Urban Apartment, when you're expecting, you know, the public to remember your name, it has to be memorable, it has to be easy to spell. And as you said, most importantly, you have to be able to get the domain name, which is really the major challenge.
Mark Pincus, of course, named his company Zynga after his dog, and that one certainly worked out. All right, David Tisch, thanks for joining us.